Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to another Meditation Minute. In this meditation, I'm going to turn our attention more towards the Brit Hadashah, although our Torah portion, Shalach, meaning to send, is deeply connected. So to briefly recap, in our Torah portion, the 12 spies, who, by the way, were 12 princes of Israel, they were sent to survey the promised land, and only 2 came back with a good report, Caleb and Joshua. Now, remember back in Exodus chapter 13, verse 18 in Parashah Beshalach. So God led the people around by the way of the wilderness to the Sea of Reeds, and Bnei Yisrael went up out of the land of Egypt armed. Well, what defines a nation? It's a people with a shared cultural identity, sovereignty, and boundaries. So God was leading them towards the promised land, Israel and Jerusalem. And after 4,000 years, the promise to Abraham, God's purpose and promise still remain unchanged till today. Praise Hashem. We're witnessing a renewed connection to that reality today. After all, isn't that why we're here worshiping Adonai this Shabbat? Baruch Hashem. Now, in many ways, we all have a personal Egypt that we must leave behind. But think for a moment about this verse. 1 Thessalonians 5:1, the Apostle Paul writes, "Now concerning the times and seasons, brothers and sisters, you have no need for anything to be written to you." In our culture, we immediately think about weather, spring, summer, fall, and winter, or maybe even holidays and vacations. But the Greek word translated as seasons is kairos, meaning an appointed time, a set time, or a significant occasion. The first century followers of Yeshua would have viewed these words through their cultural lens and practices. For them, the days, months, and years were measured according to the Hebrew calendar. And honestly, we can barely scratch the surface of how that perspective should impact our daily lives. But here's Paul's point. He's saying you already know these appointed times, you understand these seasons, these Moedim, and therefore you should recognize that the Lord's return is connected to these seasons, these Moedim, these appointed times. And then what does Paul say in verse 2? He says, "For you yourselves know very well that the day of the Lord comes like a thief in the night." Let's pause on that for a moment. Paul is not saying that we can't approximate Yeshua's return. He's actually saying the opposite. We're told to encourage each other to keep watching, and in doing so, we're building each other up. Well, let me bring this to a close with Yeshua's words in Matthew chapter 24, verse 36. "But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven nor the Son, except the Father alone." When we read in context, Yeshua isn't saying that we can't approximate his return. What he's saying is that on the Hebrew calendar, the days of the Moedim, the Jewish feast days, they don't always fall on the same day of the week. They vary from year to year. Likewise, an hour, it wasn't a fixed 60-minute duration. It was seasonal, a measurement based on the time between the sunrise and the sunset. And an hour during the summer, it could have lasted as long as 75 minutes, while an hour during the winter was as short as 45 minutes. So, as we reflect on the example of Caleb and Joshua, I pray that each of us would embrace Hashem's purpose and receive vision, courage, and faith. And most importantly, Hashem's understanding that what he promised the nation of Israel, into which we have been grafted in and made citizens, it's closer than we can even imagine. Shavua Tov.